Captain Forrest here, and in today's video I'm going to be going over both these combatants to see who would win more often than not in an inverse situation, Hyperion versus Juggernaut. Now if you guys are new to my channel, please leave a like, comment down below, and let me hear your thoughts down in the comment section. Anyway, I'm going to get right into this fight, talk about Juggernaut, then I'll move on, talk about Hyperion, and then I'll give my thoughts near the end of the video. Over the years in Marvel, back in the classic days, Juggernaut was a force to be reckoned with. Juggernaut demonstrated very impressive feats, such as the time he started beefing with Thor. He would give Thor a run for his money in combat, to the point where Thor would need to resort to BFR tactics to even get rid of Juggernaut. Cyttorak puts his trust in Juggernaut and would reward him with power, might, resistances, and protections in fights to help him deal with his opponents. Juggernaut has bodied the X-Men on a good few occasions. He's also beaten Cosmic Ghost Rider and also beaten up Green Scar Hulk to the point where Green Scar Hulk had to resort to BFRing Juggernaut from the battlefield. Cyclops himself has been unable to even phase Juggernaut with a full-powered optic blast, and this very same full-powered optic blast is capable of knocking over Green Scar Hulk and also burning his skin, and literally Juggernaut is able to power through this optic blast like it's just water. Very impressive. Juggernaut is also shown to fight King Hyperion and make him bleed. This very same King Hyperion fights Blue Marvel and punches him so hard that Blue Marvel notes he hits harder than Sentry. Keep in mind folks, Blue Marvel has actually fought against Sentry too. We've seen Juggernaut press Rogue and no-sell her attacks. This very same Rogue during the time had Wonder Man's powers, a man who was also stated by Captain America to have Sentry level strength. Very impressive. So that's going to round up Juggernaut's feats. I'm going to go ahead and talk about his powers and abilities. So Juggernaut can generate an endless amount of kinetic energy once he starts charging. Once Juggernaut begins to charge, he can't stop unless he's physically overpowered or forced to crash with his own momentum into something. Juggernaut's charge is so prominent that not even telekinesis will work on him once he gets going. Juggernaut also generates a invulnerable barrier which protects him from harm and repels any conventional threats. On top of this, Juggernaut's armor is also invulnerable too. He can also flex his force field to negate telekinetic forces. Juggernaut's armor also has resistance to durability negation, as Wolverine's adamantium claws couldn't even scratch his armor. Juggernaut's armor and barrier also grant him a bunch of resistances, such as heat resistance against the Human Torch's flames, as they had no effect on the Juggernaut. We've seen Juggernaut charge through electromagnetic barriers. Juggernaut has resistance against sleep hexes, as the X-Men set up sleep grenades to try and incapacitate Juggernaut, in which in fact weren't working on him and instead made him even angrier more than anything. Juggernaut's helmet grants him resistances to mind hacks. Charles Xavier, an Omega level mutant himself, explains that the power of Cyttorak grants Juggernaut mystic mental defenses, preventing Charles from even probing or affecting his mind in any capacity. Charles Xavier attempts to insert all his mental powers to stop Juggernaut, and it does absolutely nothing. Juggernaut also wears a backup helmet if his first one is compromised, and if things get pretty hairy, Juggernaut can also reform a new helmet right on the spot. Now, due to the power of Cyttorak, Juggernaut is able to survive inside an endless void, and Juggernaut also has Type 1 immortality. As long as his hatred remains, he will not age. When Juggernaut was swimming after Beast, the power of Cyttorak prevented Juggernaut from sinking. The power of Cyttorak grants Juggernaut self-sustenance and stamina. This dude was able to dig through the ground and went literally months without any food or water or air, as he doesn't need it. You could even argue that he has infinite stamina just due to the nature of Juggernaut being able to generate infinite kinetic energy. He can just keep going, and the power of Cyttorak itself is infinite. It's even stated itself. So there's some really good infinite arguments, infinite stamina, like just really good quantifications for Juggernaut's stamina. And also another thing I want to mention too, Juggernaut has also spent a year underground waiting, and he has a lot of patience too. So he will wait for an op. Even when reduced to a skeleton, Juggernaut is still able to fight thanks to Cyttorak's power, and Juggernaut's hatred keeps himself together. Juggernaut is able to resist his kinetic energy being slowed down. Juggernaut is also shown to use some abilities, such as the time he radiates energy around himself to cause a barrage of energy balls to fire at the X-Men. We've seen the Juggernaut use attack reflection, such as the time he was able to redirect an attack from Storm right back on her. It's also shown to deflect the optic blast from Cyclops, and due to the mystic energies coursing through Juggernaut's body, he is granted a healing factor and is shown to heal his eye back. Lastly, Juggernaut has some really good battle awareness and tactics and senses. We've seen Juggernaut bear hug his opponents. We've seen Juggernaut face opponents who edge out in the speed department. In order to tag them easier, he will purposely allow his opponents to get in close and commit to their attacks and pretty much leave themselves wide open, so he could pretty much grab them and tear them apart. And lastly, while Juggernaut was blinded by Dazzler's light, Juggernaut uses his senses to detect where Dazzler is, and he's able to grab her and stop her. And he even notes during that training session that if this was a real fight, she would have been dead. Okay, that's going to round up Juggernaut. I'm going to go ahead, move on, and talk about Hyperion. Hyperion is able to tank the collapse of two universes. At first glance, this feat looks like your average low multiversal to multiversal plus feat. As mentioned in previous videos on the hierarchy of universes in Marvel, they can be argued to range from high hyperversal to even outerversal or outerversal plus, very high into the tier. So when it comes down to what scaling you use, more often not, easily this feat for Hyperion that he performed should easily range from like the low ends of like universal plus, low multiversal, multiversal plus, high hyperversal, outerversal, or outerversal plus. So like very high into that tier. Now there's some really higher scaling you can take Hyperion, especially with some of his other feats, some of his more impressive high-end feats you can use for Hyperion. Hyperion himself can be scaled relative to Thor. He was able to fight side by side and put in relative, if not the same effort as Thor when they both fought a horde of Beyonder droids until they both died. Thor considers Hyperion to be like a brother to him, implying he is definitely rocking in Thor's tier / department of power. Now why is this impressive? So let's talk about some of the feats that Thor has demonstrated throughout the years. So we've seen Thor fight against the combined force of both Yggdrasil and the World Engine. Thor forced it all back to the end, and the feat did indeed cause him a lot of pain. Enchantress herself states that all of existence owes Thor, which is pretty good, you know, standing ovation for Thor. And we also see Yggdrasil is literally everything. It has its roots and branches in all that is. It connects all life, the birth of life. The mythologies and religions coincide with science, and that all life came from one source, be it single cell life or the body of a giant, a cosmic egg, or an explosion. The tree is impossibly vast. Its span is beyond all measure, mortal or divine. In some places it exists only as a concept. Yggdrasil essentially encompasses the dimension of manifestation and the superflow. And another thing I want to add as well, if you guys haven't seen my friend Karimbus' video on the dimension of manifestation, he goes into a lot of detail on how big and how massive the dimension of manifestation would scale and where it would be placed in the Marvel cosmology. So please check that video out. I'll leave a link in the description. But as I was saying, again, like literally, this is a weaker Thor who performed this feat, and it's not Thor's true archetypal state of existence either. Now, you think I'm done with this video, guys? I'm just getting started. This is not even my final form. So there was a time where Hyperion fought against Hulk. Hyperion is able to physically go at it with Hulk and exchange blows and damage him. And to further add on, Hyperion and Thor both equally went to town on Terminus. Hyperion also ripped the High Evolutionary's arm off, and they proceeded to go at it with each other. And lastly, we've seen Hyperion one-shot Namor with his heat vision and also vaporize Corvus. So that's going to round up Hyperion's feats. I'm going to go ahead and move on to some of Hyperion's abilities. So Hyperion has atomic heat vision, which can be argued to vaporize you down to the atomic to subatomic levels. His heat vision gets amped by the sun during the day. He carved off Juggernaut's helmet, for example, with his heat vision. Hyperion's heat vision is also radioactive. Hyperion is well known for his enhanced senses. He can hear the crack of skin cells from his students, hear someone drooling, dust mites running around their eyebrows, and hear screams from 18 miles away. Fine-tuned hearing he really does have. He can also sense and detect life and see objects from far distances. Hyperion can see things on a microscopic level. He can see what type of DNA an organism contains, such as observing a worm that contained human, alien, and different type of worm DNA. His microscopic vision is very sharp. He was able to see DNA inside a carpet. Hyperion's brain is unique. It allows him to recall memories instantaneously, almost like photographic memory. Good luck trying to lie to Hyperion. He can tell when people lie by facial expressions and behavior and brain patterns, by seeing the creative part of your brain trying to create false scenarios, and can see it within seconds. He can see lies like a stain, pretty much. Hyperion also has type 3 immortality. He's shown to regenerate his brain and eyes from being consumed by worms. Hyperion has some cool resistances. Hyperion has tanked a sound blast completely unfazed. He's shown to have resistance to durability negation, as a armor piercing missile could not penetrate his skin. You could potentially even argue adamantium not being able to cut through his skin. This was shown in Heroes Reborn Hyperion. Another version of Hyperion fights against Wolverine, and Wolverine required the help of the shaman's magic in order to get through his skin. Without the shaman's sorcery to apply the magical properties behind Wolverine's claws, his claws would have no effect on Hyperion. There was another occasion when Ultimate Wolverine could not cut through another version of Hyperion's skin. So ultimately, with these different types of scenarios, it's pretty easy to argue that more often than not, Hyperion has some really good durability negation resistances very nicely, even against things like adamantium. Hyperion has tanked atomic to subatomic nuclear explosions point blank and was pissed. Nukes are splitting atoms, so you can even argue the center of the explosion is atomic to subatomic, especially since it works with nuclear fusion and fission. That's going to round up both these combatants. I'm going to go ahead and give my thoughts on who I think wins more often than not in a inverse situation. Now, both these combatants, they have pretty similar statements, pretty similar feats. Now, I personally lean a little bit more so with Hyperion, just due to him scaling more to Thor in comparison to like Juggernaut. Juggernaut is literally getting sent flying, beaten up and tossed around like a plaything by Hulk. Thor doesn't take him seriously anymore. Thor literally one-shotted his ass very recently in like recent modern comics. Juggernaut just doesn't scale to them in the same way as Hyperion does, unfortunately. Hyperion is literally still able to contend with like Hulk. So there's some really good feats for Hyperion, whereas Juggernaut has just continued to get worse, unfortunately, just due to his connection with Sidorak. He's not in his prime anymore. Sidorak just keeps siphoning power away from him. Unfortunately for Juggernaut, he's not being taken seriously or respected in the same caliber as he once was back in the day, in the classic day when, you know, he was at full power like all the time. He had like really good prominent AP. Thor had to respect it, Hulk had to respect it, and now in current modern, you know, comics, he's literally getting dragged around like a plaything. So in terms of like feats, I give it to Hyperion. Speed, I think they're pretty relative. I think I would it's pretty safe to say they're relative in speed. You could argue Hyperion being a little bit faster. Plus, the reasons why I think Hyperion would win more often than not, he has more, you know, win cons which favor him against Juggernaut. Juggernaut doesn't have a really solid win con to deal with Hyperion because Hyperion is just way too strong. Hyperion could be afar. Juggernaut, if he wanted to, he could literally punch him into space, fly him into space and leave him there. Hyperion has heat vision. He gets stronger during the day due to his physiology, so he just unquantifiably gets stronger than Juggernaut, so that being a huge issue. And once that happens, like, Juggernaut is going to get punched up. He's going to get like 6-shot, 5-shotted. Helmet's going to come off. He's going to eat some more digs from Hyperion, get lasered, and then Hyperion is literally just going to throw his ass into space. So I definitely got to give this to Hyperion. I'd say mid difficulty. I think Juggernaut's going to definitely put in work, but it's not going to be enough. Hyperion just has many ways to win, so I gotta give this to Hyperion. So thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment down below, and of course subscribe for further content. But yes, it's been real. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.